Concrete floors can be slippery when wet. It really depends on the profile of the concrete. If it's very smooth, like a polished concrete for example, then that can be slippery. If the water gets onto it, or if oils get onto it, it can be very slippery. If you have more of a textured profile, like a broom finish for example, then they're going to be less slippery when wet. We actually provide coatings that can reduce the slipperiness of a concrete floor. We have topical coatings, we have surface treatments, we have products that can go on a very smooth concrete floor and not change the performance, but give it very high traction. So these can be addressed if the floor is naturally slippery, wet or dry. We have products to address those type of problems. Okay, the main function of a concrete coating is to seal the floor and protect it and extend the life of the floor. We also use concrete floor coatings for safety reasons like slip resistance, and also to beautify the building or the facility. In Covertec, we really focus on the safety side and on the protection and maintenance. Our whole rationale for creating coatings is to make the floor easier to clean, easier to maintain, and also more safe, much more safer, I should say. We can beautify as well. We have ways to pigment the coating and to improve the sheen. But like I say, our main function is maintenance and safety. So the benefits of using a concrete coating is to protect the floor. Concrete is inherently porous. Moisture can get into the concrete, stains, chemicals can get into the concrete. The concrete itself can be worn down. So the idea is to put a protective coating that will keep moisture out of the floor, keep chemicals out of the floor, and to give it higher wear resistance or wearability. That's the main reasons or the main benefits of using a concrete coating. You also get beautification as a element in terms of making the building brighter or more colorful or more light reflective. Concrete coatings can come in different colors and different finishes. You can pigment, have solid colors. You can mix in colors and flakes to provide a different look with a concrete coating. You can actually stain the concrete and then seal over it with a clear. All these options are available. We at Covertec will factory pigment our epoxy coatings and our urethanes. We also supply color packs that you can mix in the field. There are two main focuses, and like I say, we are big on clear sealers, which are available to mix in color flakes or color granules as well. So concrete floors can be expensive or very expensive to maintain if they're not coated. The concrete itself is very porous. It's inherently porous, so it can be easily stained. It can be worn down, damaged, and putting a protective layer on the surface will cut down the likelihood of that happening and also make it much easier to clean. The concrete, if it's stained, you're going to be using expensive equipment and chemicals. You're going to have to grind. All this is very disruptive and gets people out of the building, shuts the facility down. It's not easily achieved without a sealer or a coating, just to keep those chemicals out of the floor. We specialize in clear sealers as well as solid colors, so we can keep the look of the concrete, keep the appearance, but also make it very easy to maintain by keeping those chemicals, those solutions out of the concrete, by providing something that's very hard wearing and also providing something that's very slip resistant. So all these properties we can provide to a concrete floor and really reduce the cost to the owner as far as maintenance, and also extend the life of the floor. You can use or you can apply polyurethane over painted floors, but there are some considerations. First of all, the surface prep. You've got to make sure that you prepare that painted floor so that it will accept the urethane. Normally that requires sanding or abrading the surface and then some form of cleaning. You also need to make sure that the urethane is compatible with the paint. For example, if it's a solvent-based urethane, you have to be careful about using that with a water-based or latex paint. The third point is, you're only as good as the bond to the concrete. So if the paint is well bonded to the surface, the urethane will bond to that paint and you have a good system. But if that paint is loose or flaking or not well bonded, then the urethane will be sticking to that weak surface and they'll both lift off. So you're only as good as the paint adhesion to the surface. That's the important thing. So it can be done, but you have to take in those three factors. Good surface prep, make sure the urethane is compatible with the paint, and also that the paint is well bonded. So industrial coatings generally are different to the floor coatings that you'd use in the home. They tend to be two-part products. They tend to require more surface preparation, and they also have higher solids in them. They're going to be exposed to higher traffic. They're going to be exposed to more chemicals, more aggressive exposure conditions. So those products need to be heavier duty, harder wearing, and more chemical resistant. The products in the home need to be easier to apply. Issues with safety, chemicals, VOCs, odors coming, all those things have to be considered, especially when they're being used by homeowners or consumers or D.I.Ys that may not have access to the same sort of protective equipment or application equipment that a contractor would use in an industrial situation. So yeah, they are going to be different and they're going to be heavy duty. Now in Covertec we try and give the consumer some of the benefits of a industrial coating. We call them professional grade coatings. We make them easier to apply, but we do formulate them so that they are tougher than the standard type of sealer that you'd get in a big box facility or a big box store. So is there a difference between interior and exterior floor coatings? Well, there can be. Exterior floor coatings have to be UV resistant, they have to be weather resistant, so that they don't change color or their properties don't break down when they're exposed to UV light or the weather conditions, the wetting and drying, the sunlight, the temperature changes. In an interior application, you don't face those same conditions. So in terms of how we formulate them and the properties that we give to the coatings, the exterior ones need to be much more heavy duty. Epoxy coatings, for example, they're good coatings, they work very well interior, but exterior they're going to break down under UV light, they're going to weather. You'll see color changes, you'll see them breaking down. An acrylic or a urethane can be used interior or exterior. These products have good UV resistance. So in that case, we can use those products inside the facility and outside. So there are many applications where we can use a concrete floor coating. Obviously on the industrial side, we're looking to protect the floor, we want to seal off the floor, we want to protect it against chemicals. So things like workshops or garage floors, maintenance areas, factory floors, industrial applications. That's inside the facility, outside the facility. Could be like gas stations, could be parking decks. Just think the main function of the coating is to protect the concrete, to seal it off, and then you can see that they're applicable to many industrial and commercial applications. Inside the home, we can use concrete coatings. If we've got concrete floors, if we've got decorative concrete, that's popular now. Even concrete countertops, we can use concrete floor coatings and sealers. Outside the property, we have our driveways, we have our patios. A lot of times that's decorative concrete, or it's concrete pavers. So again, we can use our concrete sealers to seal and protect those surfaces, to provide slip resistance, and also to beautify. We have commercial facilities like airports, like hotels, like restaurants, and again, a lot of concrete in those facilities. Not only concrete, but also natural stone. A lot of our concrete products can be used on natural stone. They're also porous, they're also susceptible to staining, they're also susceptible to being slippery. So not only concrete, but also natural stone. So a multitude of applications for concrete sealers inside and outside the property, both commercial, industrial, and residential. So as a manufacturer, we try to make concrete floor coatings easier to apply, easier to use for DIY customers. We try and make them easier to mix. We try to make them single coats, for example, instead of two parts, and we try and make them less expensive as far as the solids that are in there and the surface prep that's required. But it's important to get that balance right so that you do have a good durable coating. Even though it's a DIY customer, we still want something that's going to last a long time and is going to be easy to maintain. So we try and get that balance right with what we call professional grade products that are available to the consumer. There'll be some trade-offs. Maybe instead of a single part, we'll be giving you a two-part, so you do have to mix it. But the amount of surface prep that's needed is minimal. We don't need heavy grinding. We don't need expensive equipment to prep the floor. We also make cleaners that support preparing the surface so that the application is more long-term and more durability. Okay, so a combination of minimal surface prep and good cleaners will also give you a professional finish. We are able to provide higher solids in our products. Generally, we're using more polymer or higher solids so that our products are much more durable than what you typically get from a retail or a DIY box store facility. Okay, so we're giving you the benefits, or some of the benefits of an industrial or commercial coating that's now available to the DIY customer. Okay, so when I'm guiding someone on what type of floor coating, what type of concrete floor coating they should use, I really ask around three questions. First of all, the exposure conditions, then the any limitations in using the product, and then thirdly, any aesthetics, whether they need sheen, do they need color. So just to go in more detail, as far as exposure is concerned, that's all about, is it inside the property, outside the property? Are there any chemicals? Is it high traffic? Is it low traffic? Are there issues with slipperiness, anti-slip, for example? Do we need to make sure that the floor is anti-slip? So that will guide us to a group of products. Then we need to look at the limitations. Maybe there's a shutdown limitation. We can only shut down this entranceway or this facility for a short period of time. Maybe there's odor issues. This is like a hospital or in a school. We can't have any smell at all. That's going to then guide us towards a group of products. And then the temperature is another one. Right? This building can only reach this temperature, or this floor is at this temperature. That will dictate the type of technology we use. And then lastly, we talk about the aesthetics. Is it color? Do you need a certain color? Do you need a certain sheen? Or maybe you don't need a change in appearance at all. That would perhaps point us towards a penetrating sealant. So looking at all these three conditions, the exposure, the limitations, and the aesthetics will point us to a product or a group of products that we can recommend for. What we aim for is to give our customers the best bang for the buck, really. We want to give them a very durable coating that's not very expensive to install, but will last a long period of time. There, if we can get that balance right, we're giving real value to the customer. So that's how we focus a lot of our technology, a lot of our solutions. For example, we have a industrial coating, our U140, that is a thin coating that penetrates the surface, leaves a thin film. Minimal surface prep, but highly chemically resistant. That is, in terms of installation costs, maybe 3 times less expensive than a standard epoxy, but will last 5 to 10 years. So some incredible savings or bang for the buck or value with that type of technology. So that would be our go-to product for a customer. There'll always be trade-offs. It's a clear sealer. It's not extremely pretty, but it's very functional and it's very chemical and has great slip resistance. And it gives you that bang for buck value. We do the same thing with our penetrating sealers. They're products that can be easily applied as long as the surface is absorbent, can accept water, and you can test that simply. Then we can apply our products. We have generally 20 to 30% higher solids in our products, or more active solids, which means that they're going to last longer, they're going to be more effective. And we provide them at a price point that's equal or lower than many of our competitors. So again, you're getting the best bang for the buck. Durability, long-term wear resistance, or longer lasting products at a very cost-effective price.